had to take a dump at my mother's funeral. This is my earliest memory, I think. To be honest, I think I remember this mostly because that's the first question I get asked by all the head shrinkers in here. Friendly fellows those doctors are. Apparently, before the state fries me, they want to get to know me as best they can. But that's not what you came for, is it? You only came for the blood and the guts and the gore! Hey, how often is it that you get so close to a so-called serial killer? Most people? Never. Some people? Almost never. And in my case, 8 people once. Well, at least that's all they caught me on. I'm leaving the rest for them to find, kind of like an Easter egg hunt. Welcome to my freak show, my court-approved freak show. I could go into a long, involved story about the trials and tribulations of my trials and tribulations, but let's just cut to the chase. My name is Archie Nunn, and I'm on death row. In 1 week, I'm gonna be sent to the fryer. I figured I'd tell you my story. And we're gonna get to the blood and the guts and everything. Just hold on to your seats, because as they said in Munchkin Land, we'll be there shortly. Go for the heart. Just don't eat it, says Archie Nunn. Archie, being on death row, has one last wish, to heap massive abuse on the Disney Corporation, which he blames for his problems, and to tell of his twin obsession with serial television and serial murder. Many of us can relate to Archie's frustrations. Many of us, myself included, grow up feeling lied to about how the real world really works. We grow up watching colorful, misshapen characters and inanimate objects prance around on screen, and then we see the dark villain defeated in the end. This false narrative hits us hard when we realize that we were lied to by who we thought were our closest friends. So I Killed a Few People by Gary Ruderin and David Summers. I grew up outside of the Jewish part of Atlanta, but when I was 9, me and my family moved to Orlando. My dad worked for the company. He's an electrical engineer for Disneyland. He's a nice guy, always gets along with everyone. As for my mother, being happy to her meant vodka martinis for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, with bourbon snacks throughout the day. She was always drinking. My dad was rarely ever home, so to get away from it all, I would go to my room and turn on the TV. When I was a kid, I watched the movies and the TV shows, and I bought the image. But there is no greater problem in our society today than the effect that Disney is having on our children. Disney claims to be a friend of the family, but that's just part of the conspiracy. If Disney really wanted to help little kids, they would show them movies and TV shows that send out a real message about life. And that is, if you're ugly, crippled, or a freak, here's what's gonna happen to you. Nothing. People will hate you. Mommies and daddies don't like cripples. Restaurants don't serve ugly people. You better live on an island. You should kill yourself. You should kill those that hate you. One day these little kids are going to grow up and they're going to learn the realities of life and they're going to snap. They're going to lose it. And blam! Disney has created more serial killers in the entire state of Wisconsin. I guess if I have any regrets, it's that I've hurt my dad. Like I said, he's a good guy and a good dad, and he ended up with a serial killer for a son. Not a ringing endorsement of fatherhood, but he's a good dad. I don't blame him, and no one should. He is in denial about my death, though. He's never asked me about the killings, or why, or anything. anything. He came to say goodbye to me. We were sitting there. It was a little awkward, so I broke the ice. I said, "Hey, Dad. They told me the chair is a new 10,000 model from Westinghouse." This perked him up a little. He started chatting about the advanced technologies that went into making that chair and how it was a quality piece of equipment. I told him how they wet down my head to get better connections, and he told me that was a good way to ensure the flow of electricity to my brain. By the end of the discussion, he had fully explained the technical aspects of how I was going to die by electrocution. To him, this may have been the birds and the bees talk we never had. When he got up to leave, we just stared at each other. His last words to me were, "I've known, aren't you? I've always known." And then he turned around and left, and I just stared at him. Right before they pull the switch, they ask you for your last words. I think I'll tell them about the only time I've ever killed out of genuine anger. The only time I lost something I truly cared about. It was my first time. My first time killing. I told you about my dad, and I brought up my mother's alcohol problem. When she drank, she got very verbally abusive towards me. All my friends were on the TV, and she had no friends. She'd whine to me about how I was losing touch with reality. Last I checked, I wasn't the one drowning my sorrows in the bottom of a liquor bottle. And one day, we had a real drag out of a fight. She was drinking more than usual, so I went to my room and turned on the TV. When all of a sudden in the doorway behind me, I heard this heavy breathing. I turned and she was standing there, panting, sweating, and holding a claw hammer in her hand. She had lost it. But I wasn't afraid. She was puny and I knew I could take her. But then I realized I wasn't the object of interest. I leaped at her, but it was too late. She had driven the hammer through my friend. There was an explosion of glass and sparks, and then they were gone. All gone. She turned to me, and she said, "Now maybe you'll talk to me." Through my rage, I was seething. But in the calmest voice I could muster, I said, "It'll be okay. Let's just clean up the mess." This confused her, but she handed me the claw hammer and turned to go get the dustpan. And when she turned around, I dug the claw into the hammer to the back of her skull. And I dragged her back into the room. She was screaming. So I took the blood into the hammer and I smashed it into her throat. She really started crying then. But I know it's just to manipulate me, you know? Mess with my emotions. Turn my friends against me. Actually, she owed my friends an apology. So I picked her up and I slammed her head first into the TV. And I said, "You tell Johnny Carson and Johnny Quest you're sorry. Tell them what they want, Johnny." I can't believe I ate the whole thing. "Lucy, you've got some explaining to do. Hogan, this message will self-destruct in 5 seconds. MICKEY. Why? Why? Then I realized she wasn't moving anymore. I let the body drop, but the head stayed in. I crouched down and stared at it for a long time. It wasn't as good as regular TV, but I was fascinated by it. was like making my own kind of TV. I like this show. I wanted to see more of this show. I don't remember much after that, except I had to take a dump at her funeral.